All right, let's dive into this explainer by addressing a completely universal and, honestly deeply embarrassing, human trauma that happens in the most mundane of domestic settings. We're going to explore why you feel a sudden, completely irrational spike of panic the exact second you realize you've walked into a room and have absolutely no memory of why you went in there.
Come on, you've all been there. You knew your mission with 100% complete certainty just 30 seconds ago. And now you're standing in your own kitchen like a confused tourist in a country you literally live in. You're looking down at a spatula in your hand, staring at the fridge, and seriously wondering if you've been abducted by aliens who just wiped your memory.
It is such a wild contrast, right? On one hand, you had this perfectly formed, rock-solid intention to go grab an ingredient. On the other hand, just complete, hollow emptiness. And, as we'll see in the data, it's because your brain has made a catastrophically literal decision to treat a simple door frame as a biological hard drive wipe, deleting your intentions with the exact same indifferent efficiency it would use on a spam email.
Now, the good news here? You are not experiencing early cognitive decline. You really don't need to panic about your brain slowly rotting away. You are just a victim of a heavily documented scientific glitch known as the doorway effect, sometimes called the location updating effect. It's basically a fundamental quirk of episodic memory segmentation, and trust me, it happens to absolutely everyone. Section 1. The Lead Investigator. Discovering the Biological Hard Drive Wipe.
So, the pioneer behind this research is a psychology professor named Gabriel Radvansky, and he started really digging into this phenomenon around 2006. He hypothesized that your brain doesn't just view a simple wooden door frame as architectural trim. No, it sees it as a profound psychological trigger. As he notes in his research, your brain treats the doorway as an event boundary. It literally looks at the transition from your living room to your kitchen and goes, okay, well, that episode of our life is over, time to file that away and start a brand new show.
To actually prove this was happening, Radvansky set up a series of experiments back in 2011. He had subjects pick up an object, like a colored block for example, and carry it to another table. Now some subjects walked across a large open room to put it down. Others walked the exact same physical distance, but their path required crossing through a doorway into a new room. And the results were crazy. The doorway crossers consistently forgot what they were carrying way more often than the people who stayed in a single room. The physical distance didn't matter at all, but boundary did.
And what's absolutely wild is that this effect is so deeply ingrained in our cognitive architecture, you don't even need a physical door. A 2014 study explicitly tested this by having people just mentally navigate a virtual space. They literally asked subjects to close their eyes and simply imagine walking through a doorway. Just the mental visualization triggered the memory wipe. Your brain is so incredibly committed to this filing system that even a make-believe door deletes your data.
Part 2. The Event Horizon Model. The new room, new me philosophy of the brain. So why on earth does this happen? Well, it comes down to what's called event segmentation theory. Our continuous waking reality is just way too much data for our brains to process at once, so it continuously slices it up into smaller, digestible chunks. Just look at the tragic 21-second lifespan of your great kitchen intention here. At 0 seconds, the brilliant idea is born. For 15 seconds, you're carrying it across the room. At 20 seconds, you hit that event boundary. And by second 21, your working memory quite literally closes the browser tab on your memory without hitting save, because it assumes it needs a blank slate for this brand new environment.
Now, the funny thing is, your brain is actually trying to do you a solid here. According to the Event Horizon model, it actively discards those memory traces of prior events just to reduce cognitive competition. It doesn't want you distracted by living room problems when you enter the kitchen because, for all your evolutionary biology knows, there could be a tiger in the kitchen. It's clearing the cache to optimize your processing speed. It just awkwardly results in you staring dumbly at a spatula.
Moving into Part 3, the multitasking plot twist, the 2021 replication study.
Okay, here is where our scientific mystery gets a massive plot twist. In 2021, a researcher named Jessica McFadden built virtual environments where the rooms on either side of the doorway were visually identical. And what her team discovered was pretty shocking. When participants passed through these doors normally, the memory wipe didn't happen. The doorway effect completely vanished. That is, until the researchers threw a wrench in things and made the participants do something else at the same time, like counting backwards out loud. Once they were distracted by multitasking, crossing the doorway completely scrambled their memory all over again.
Just look at the stark difference in the data here. Under a low mental load, passing through the door only yielded about an 8% false alarm rate when people were asked what they were holding. But when you add a high working memory load, like that backwards counting, boom, that error rate spikes to nearly 38%. It shows us that under stress, the doorway doesn't just politely delete data, it actively confuses your brain, causing a massive spike in false alarms due to cognitive interference.
So the really crucial takeaway here is that the door is really just an accomplice. The real culprit is your own distracted mind. You are overloading your working memory capacity with thoughts about what to make for dinner, that unread passive-aggressive text message, maybe a looming work deadline, all at the exact moment you cross an environmental boundary. Your overloaded, stressed-out brain just panics and drops the most fragile file in its hands, which happens to be your immediate intention.
Which brings us to part 4, hacking your inner doorway. How to actually stop being a confused kitchen tourist. So, we've diagnosed the trauma. How do we stop wandering our houses like we just woke up from a coma? First things first, you've got to stop the mental multitasking. Put down your phone when you walk into the kitchen. But the absolute most powerful tool you have is maintaining causal relationships. Build a mental bridge. Actively tell yourself, I need this spatula in order to flip the eggs in the pan. That top-down knowledge acts as a sort of cognitive scaffold. It anchors the memory across the boundary so it doesn't just get swept away when your brain updates its location model.
So, the next time you find yourself staring completely blankly at your refrigerator, grasping at the ghosts of forgotten intentions, give yourself some grace. You aren't losing it. You just pushed your cognitive processing capacity directly into an event boundary. But it does leave you with one somewhat terrifying final thought to chew on. If a simple piece of wood can make you completely forget why you walked into a room, what else is your biological hard drive quietly wiping right this very second?